Tonight, 1965. The times, the memories, the songs. It was the year of Wooly Bully and King of the Road, of Sonny and Cher and Julie Andrews. You could buy a snappy sports car for $2,500. In television hospitals, Ben Casey and Dr. Kildare were performing miracles. We found ourselves in a war we didn't understand. Hemlines went above the knee. The peg pants were permanent press. 1965. Where were you? A year for the Beatles and for us. I'm Fahey Flynn. Where were you when the Beatles jammed Shea Stadium in New York? Tonight, we're going to play the songs you were singing in 1965. We'll watch the shows you saw when television was more black and white than color, and those television commercials.
No matter what shape your stomach's in. What shape your stomach's in, when it gets out of shape, take Alka-Seltzer. Alka-Seltzer relieves the flutters, calms the nervous feeling, relieves heartburn, relieves the stuffy feeling, and relieves a headache.
In 1965, television commercials put a heavy accent on youth. Even meek men were moved to macho. Images changed before our eyes. Hip men went from a fast buck to a fast back. What happened to Henry?
Mustang happened to Henry. The 65 fastback Mustang. They call it the 2+2.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah, get around, round, round, I get around, I get around.
Henry's Mustang went for $2,500, loaded. But the big status symbol was still the big car at a stiff $5,500. Who worried about gas in 1965? At the pump, it was 31 cents a gallon. A loaf of bread cost 21 cents. A pound of coffee, 83 cents. You could buy a dozen eggs for 53 cents. But the Wheel of Fortune in 1965 showed the average American salary was $95.45 a week. Some of these 1965 fashions were ignored by American women. Some were embraced. Nylon and Orlon caused a revolution in the garment industry. Cotton seemed forgotten as we started wearing chemicals on our backs. 1965 was the year of drip dry. The modish male wore permanent press peg pants with cuffs. As always, fashion was set by the in crowd. Bathing suits left us breathless. And Catholic nuns ended the habit. We saw flying nuns on motor scooters. And what were we looking at on television? Initials. On Sundays, there was Bonanza. And which one of these cowpokes left the Ponderosa for a little house on the prairie? This Kid, Michael Landon. We were bewitched on Thursdays at 8. We laughed at Gomer Pyle on Fridays at 8. There was Combat on Tuesdays at 6:30. Dick Van Dyke at 8:30 on Wednesdays with Mary Tyler Moore. I Spy, 9 o'clock on Wednesdays. The Beverly Hillbillies, Wednesday nights at 7:30. And Drama.
Dr. Burnside, I brought him in as soon as his temperature started to go up, like you said.
Thank you.
Doctors, doctors everywhere. Casey and Kildare.
You're going to be all right. Mother's here. You'll be all right.
Now, Doctor, I don't want a member of my staff playing an anxious mother. You just leave us alone. Let us finish this workup.
The Academy Awards held in 1965 went to family fare, like Mary Poppins, My Fair Lady, and The Sound of Music. Oscar winner Julie Andrews personified them all, but there was a demand for pictures with more mature themes, so Hollywood went into the body business in a big way, with stars like Elizabeth Taylor, Charles Bronson, and Richard Burton in The Sandpiper.
Reverend, you interested in that?
Reverend is not a title. It's an adjective that qualifies the title. You may more properly address me as Doctor or Mr.
Gee. Excuse me.
No, not at all. It's a common error. And as for your question, yes, I am interested in art.
Another big hit in 1965, a far cry from Mary Poppins, was The Cincinnati Kid with Steve McQueen and Tuesday Wells.
Well, husbands, fathers, everybody. It seems they cared more about their lives than they did about their honor.
In the same picture, more new maturity, Carl Malden and Anne Margaret. While movies like these were setting new styles, the top 10 songs were setting new sales records. Remember these?
Uno, dos, 1, 2, 3, 4. About a thing she saw, a two big horn, and a woolly dog, woolly, 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 that's right, woolly, 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 woolly.
Back in 1965, Sonny still had Cher, and they shared this hit.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe. I got you, babe. I got you, babe.
1965, where were you when a man first walked in space? When Miss Kansas was Miss America? Where is she now? We'll show you in a moment. In January 1965, Lyndon Baines Johnson was inaugurated for his first elected term. He would commit us to the most unpopular war in our history. But in June, we took special pride when we saw the first American take a walk in space.
Trailer for sale or rent, rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. Ain't got no cigarettes, but 2 hours of pushing broom buys a 8 by 12 4-bedroom. I'm a man of means by no means, king of the road.
A record 43 million Americans elected Lyndon Johnson.
Sugar
many years, we have made a national pledge to help South Vietnam defend its independence. And I intend to keep that promise.
Up the magic dragon lived by the sea and frolicked in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. A dragon lives forever, but not so little boys. Painted wings and giant's rings make way for other toys.
Nearly 50,000 would die before it was over. In April, 14,000 Marines went to the Dominican Republic. Satirist Tom Lehrer made this comment.
When someone makes a move of which we don't approve, who is it that always intervenes? UN and OAS, they have their place, I guess. But first, send the Marines. We'll send them all we've got. John Wayne and Randolph Scott. Remember those exciting fighting scenes. To the shores of Tripoli, but not to Mississippi. What do? We send the Marines.
The Soviets had turned East Berlin into a walled city. Anyone caught trying to escape could be shot on sight. This rare footage shows a daring young man who had been separated from his girl too long. Watch this dramatic escape.
Life goes on day after day. Hearts torn in every way. So ferry cross the Mersey, 'cause this land's the place I love, and here I'll stay.
In 1965, for the first time ever, a pope visits the United States.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
Where were you in November 1965 when the lights went out all over the Northeast? Just ahead, a look at Miss America then and now.
Memories.
1965 saw a massive demonstration for civil rights and a flare-up of civil strife. A new Miss America was crowned in September of '65. And where were you when the lights went out? The brightest city in the world went to black in 1965. The Great White Way was reduced to candle power. There was a broken date for every light on Broadway. And how did New Yorkers take it? In their stride, of course.
You may find somebody kind to help and understand you. Someone who is just like you and needs a gentle hand to guide them along. So maybe I'll see you there. We can forget all our troubles, forget all our cares. So go downtown. Things will be great when you're downtown. Don't wait a minute more. Downtown. Everything's waiting for you.
In the summer of '65, both blacks and whites marched from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama in a demonstration for voter registration. It was the biggest civil rights protest march to date. The riots in Watts were yet to come.
did this, they didn't have anything to lose.
And in Los Angeles, during a long, hot August, Watts became a battlefield. In 7 days and 7 nights, fire destroyed $200 million in property, 35 died.
You have yours, you earned it. Give the oppressed man a chance to earn his.
No. 19-year-old Debbie Bryant is named Miss America in 1965.
Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter. Girls as sharp as her are something rare.
In the coming year, Deborah will be one of the most photographed girls in the world.
Today, in Mesa, Arizona, she sees a playback of that memorable night with 4 of her 5 children.
Where's Mommy?
Crops out there.
Where's Mom? Right there.
Miss left goes to be the runner-up as Miss Kansas gets the nod. Miss America 1965.
I think the one thing that I would regret, I think if I had not become Miss America, say perhaps had just been a state pageant winner and gotten some scholarships, I probably would have finished college and gone on to medical school. The studies sort of got sidelined, if you know what I mean. I did finish school and I did receive my degree, taking that organic chemistry and comparative analysis and things like that that I had to have. And I finally wound up lacking maybe 2 or 3 courses for entering medical school, and then I got married, and I never did get back to it.
Along came a young prince who was so enchanted with Snow White.
The beautiful lady is now a mama. The fairy tale world she encounters is only in a storybook. Today, life for Debbie Bryant Burge is filled with everyday reality, but there's always the crown to remember.
Goodbye to the 7 dwarfs, thanked them for all they had done for her, and rode off with the prince to his royal castle, where she lived happily ever after.
Read this.
Okay.
And Chicago remembers. Streets filled with protest marches and parades as the city shared in the struggle and triumph of 1965. Chicago in 1965. We were a mirror of what was happening in the nation. We had a personal interest in the spacewalk. And here in the streets of Chicago, it was a hot civil rights summer too.
In 1965, the focus of the Chicago civil rights movement was really against Ben Willis, the superintendent of the Chicago public schools. So under the auspices of the Coordinating Council of Community Organization, we marched the entire summer of 1965 to dramatize the lack of school integration in the city of Chicago. Perhaps I was naive, but I really felt that if we marched enough and we went to jail enough, that somehow we would get to the conscience of Chicago and the conscience of America, and, you know, black folks would be free.
It was a happy time. People think now of the civil rights issue as tired and of a lot of bitterness. But I remember 1965 as a time of great hope, great excitement. Dr. King had come to Chicago. He had chosen Chicago. He was a great world leader and national leader. He was really making a difference in terms of civil rights legislation. And through his leadership, people came together across racial lines in a true spirit of brotherhood and cooperation. It was exciting. You had a taste of what we hoped the future was going to be like, of a society of genuine interracial community. And we've lost a lot of that today. But the vision was there, and I'll never forget that experience and that brightness of that time.
June 14th, 1965, Chicago cheered the first Americans to take a walk in space, and especially one who spent his early years on Chicago's west side, astronaut James A. McDivitt. Thousands of Chicagoans took time to say, "Thank you for making us proud."
I really can't say how proud I am to be standing here today. I think it's not very many people that get to be honored by the town in which they were born, as I have today.
And in 1965, we lost Winston Churchill, Illinois' own Adlai Stevenson, Edward R. Murrow, Albert Schweitzer. So there it is, 1965. For most of us, a year of favorite songs and special memories. Like all years, it was a year of hope, the hope that it's getting better all the time.
It's getting better all the time. I used to get mad at my school. The teachers that taught me weren't cool. They're holding me down, turning me round, filling me up with your rules. I've got to admit, it's getting better, a little better all the time. I have to admit, it's getting better, it's getting better since you